Hey guys, Ryan here. So this past week, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice was released to pretty strong reviews despite having the worst name for a game I've seen since, well, DMC Devil May Cry. However, all things considered, everything I've seen has led me to believe it's a pretty solid game that's trying to do some real experimental things while tackling ideas that bigger, more expensive games wouldn't be allowed to, and a smaller micro-budget game wouldn't be easily able to. I want to make it clear, I haven't played it yet, but I definitely want to give it a go, especially for the cheap price it's asking. However, upon its release, players discovered that in the opening section of the game, they were informed that should they die too many times in a row, their save would be permanently deleted. Personally, upon hearing about this feature, I was curious how they'd manage it, but it seemed like an interesting way of adding tension to every second of what appeared to be a psychological horror action game. Now, I don't know if this is a widespread thing, but in the corners of the internet I inhabit, after hearing this, everyone I hang around proceeded to collectively and completely lose their f***ing shit. Cries of artificial difficulty and that Ninja Theory misunderstood Dark Souls hung in the air. People canceling their pre-orders and boycotting the game left and right. Most of all, people saying that the mechanic was a garbage choice and had no place in any kind of modern game. A complaint mirrored by a now deleted tweet by the massively influential Total Biscuit. And look, if the game doesn't look like it appeals to you from the ground up, then by all means, don't play it. I'm not here to tell anyone they have to play any game, much less enjoy it. However, the fact that we have people who are rejecting a game wholesale based on a single mechanic that they know little to nothing about stands in firm opposition to nearly everything I've discussed on this channel in the past. And I want to examine why, despite me never playing the game or knowing nothing about it outside of what articles have told me, people tearing into Hellblade offends me so goddamn much. So let's ignore the fact that people are complaining about a mechanic that chances are they know nothing about how it actually works. Let's ignore the fact that the overwhelming amount of people trashing this element of it are people who have never even touched the game. Let's ignore that everyone I've seen who has played the game hasn't complained about it once. And most of all, let's ignore the fact that its permadeath could theoretically lend an insane amount of tension and narrative depth to each fight you engage with due to the stakes at play being raised so high, while also choosing to ignore the fact that, minor spoilers, the whole permadeath thing seems to be a goddamn f***ing bluff in the first place. Let's just ignore all of that. Let's pretend all of that is a non-factor and focus on the one thing that truly irks me. The fact that so many people saw this subversive, experimental mechanic and collectively wrote it off without hesitation or experiencing it. Experimentation is how all art grows, and every time we condemn an attempt at it out of hand, we stunt the growth of the thing we love. And likewise, I'm not here to say you can't judge a game based on what you see of it. I mean, if I refused to do that, I'd buy every COD game because, out of context, they all look like good games. The more you know about and understand existing and established mechanics such as shooting, the easier it is to draw an inference on how they may work based on their context. A new COD will probably be slow, have regenning health, and involve cover. Doom will probably be fast-paced, have set health, and be centered around twitch reflexes. However, this level of prejudice can only really be restricted to games with ideas and mechanics we already know about and to some degree understand. Otherwise, best case scenario, we get people who presume to know everything about an experimental artwork they haven't even touched, and at worst give us a situation not unlike that which we saw during the release of 2012's Spec Ops: The Line. If you haven't played it, I'm not here to spoil that game for you. And if you're part of the negative response that game received, I'm not here to tell you why I think you should enjoy it. Rather, I'm here to tell you that I remember much of the general response to it, which, much like Hellblade's, was kind of irrational and irresponsible. With people hearing that Spec Ops was a game that loathed you for enjoying it, and immediately trashing it for that element with a complete disregard for context or intent. Without spoiling anything, its loathing of the player wasn't its ultimate intent. Rather, it used that loathing to explore player agency and violence in games, as well as what the player was willing to do merely because the game told them to do it. And a lot of people absolutely despise the game for merely hearing that it did that. This was the general public response to the game's aggressive experimentation. And it's not unusual for any game to be punished for trying something this far beyond the pale. This is why quote-unquote walking simulators are still frequently referred to as non-games, and why Demon's Souls was treated as an aggressive, contrarian aberration by critics and the general public upon its release, instead of the modern masterpiece many view it as today. When a game tries something that is truly experimental, truly out there, and frankly weird, we rail against it. And it's wrong. You don't have to enjoy every experimentation done, I sure as hell don't. Star Fox Zero is a train wreck, Heavy Rain was trash, and what were you actually thinking, Ken Levine? Like, what were you going for? What I'm saying is that you should at least give the experimentation the time of day before trashing it. I mean, I've made it no secret that Nier is among my favorite games of the last generation, and that is a game that is incredibly experimental. It's a game that, on paper, I'm sure many of you, and even I, would have and may still reject. The idea of a game that you have to play through multiple times to gain new perspectives and get the full story is kind of inherently counter to user friendliness. But that's kind of the point, and that's kind of what excites me about Hellblade. Without people taking risks like that seen in both Nier and Hellblade, games don't grow as an art form. Without designers trying new things, how can we expect games to flourish? I constantly hear complaints that games have become homogenous, but whenever someone tries to break new ground, I always see some people acting as though it's a personal attack. Are we really so incapable of letting games try new things? How can we expect designers to be creative if we, as audience members, won't give that creativity the time of day? This is essential to the art form growing, and every time we condemn the sheer effort without seeing the fruits of it, we are setting our culture back. Like I said, my point here isn't that you should like Hellblade or Spec Ops or Nier. You have every right to claim those games have their failings and don't appeal to your taste, and I completely respect that. However, to hate something merely for trying something new which you personally haven't even tried is just wrong. I want to reiterate, I haven't played a single second of Hellblade, but frankly, it doesn't matter, because I'm not the one ripping into its experimental elements without knowing how they will impact my play. We as audience members need to give games permission to try new things and push boundaries and not tear them apart before we even know how that experiment works. It's literally the least we can do. I don't want to be cynical about this, but have we all truly learned nothing from Yoko Taro? I need a drink after this. Anyways, I think that about covers it for today. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments. Also, on August 14th at 6 p.m. California time, I'll be doing a stream here giving commentary on my oldest videos to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of Codex entry. And it may or may not include a face reveal, who knows? I don't. Just saying, don't be surprised. Follow me on Twitter to hear about any changes that go down with the scheduling. Likewise, if you're watching this video after the 14th, it will be getting uploaded to my side channel linked in the description to watch at your leisure. No matter what, I hope you can swing by. Anyways, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I love you all. Peace.